So in my last lecture, I have covered service-oriented analysis. So today I am starting the service-oriented designing chapter. So chapter number 4. And today I'm going to cover, I'm going to start the first phase which is used in service-oriented design is the compose SOA phase. So while analyzing the services, the next step is composing the SOA. So compose SOA phase is what? You identify the individual web services and you combine that web services with the help of integration approach. You combine the web services using the bottom-up approach. In the bottom-up approach, individual web services, web APIs are again identified, and in object-oriented design, you compose the web services with each other. So this particular phase is called as integration of the web services or web API based on the business task or the business requirement. So based on the business task or business requirement, we may add the multiple web services or web API with each other for performing a particular task. So today I am covering the service-oriented design phase. So in analysis phase, we have seen that in analysis phase, we have taken one timesheet case study, and in that timesheet case study, we have seen the two different approaches. So we have analyzed the web service, means that case study with the help of task-centric approach and the entity-centric approach. In the task-centric approach or entity-centric approach, we have identified total 11 web services in a given timesheet project. So today I am covering the designing phase. So how this designing phase is again carried out in the IT organization with the help of this phase number first is compose SOA phase. So service-oriented design. So service-oriented design is what? Is a process. Just like analysis process, in analyzing the process, we have identified the web services. We have written the scenario for each and every case study. Again, we have converted that scenario into a diagram. That diagram may be with the help of flowchart or with the help of activity diagram. You represent the each and every web service. You explain each and every web service with the help of activity diagram or flowchart. So after that, just like analysis phase, analysis is also one of the process. So similarly, service-oriented design is also a process. And in this process, which concrete physical service design. So we are designing the services. We have identified the web services and now we are designing the web services. So the web services, as per the web service framework, the web service development is again divided into two different parts. So service provider, so we are designing the web service with the angle of service provider. Again, we are designing the web services with the angle of service consumer. So generally service consumer or service requester designs the GUI for the given web service, and the service provider writes the business logic for computerizing a web service or web API. So for designing the web service and web API, the business logic is again identified and written with the help of different technologies. So this is the job of service provider, and service requester designs the GUI. So the design phase. So we have to design the GUI for accessing the for consuming the web service. So service designing, service-oriented design is a process which concrete physical services are again designed. We are designing the concrete physical services, and these services are derived from the logical service candidate. We have identified the web services. We have converted every web services with the help of flowchart or with the help of activity diagram, and now that logical services are again converted into a service-oriented design. So logical services candidates are again identified and then assembled into abstraction composition that implement a business process. So for implementing a business process, multiple web services are again assembled with each other for fulfilling that business process. For fulfilling a business task, the service-oriented service architect integrate the multiple web services, web API into one big task, one big business process. So to computerizing one big process, multiple web services are again integrated. So this is what the primary job of this service-oriented design. So while designing service-oriented designing, different questions are again asked by the architect. The questions are like this. The first question is, how can physical service interface design or definitions are derived from the service candidate? So service candidates are again we have identified. We have identified 11 web services from that timesheet project. We have modeled that web service candidate. Modeling means what? Identifying the scenario and converting that scenario into a flow chart or that activity diagram during the service oriented analysis phase. So how can physical service interface design to be derived from the service candidate model during the service oriented analysis phase? So during the analysis phases, we have identified total 11 different web API or web services related with timesheet process. So timesheet project. Then the next question is again asked by the architect is, what SOA characteristics do we want to realize and support? So if the web service supports maximum characteristics, the characteristics are the reusability is one of the characteristics. Statelessness is one of the characteristics. Reusability, statelessness, then these web services are again autonomous, following the guidelines and principles of service-oriented architecture. So what SOA characteristics do we want to realize and support? So this question is also asked during the designing phase. Then what industry standards and extensions will be required by our service-oriented analysis? So what industry standard? So generally the XML is what? XML is one of the standard, and with the help of that XML, the user is able to develop the program in one technology and another user can access the same program with the help of different technology. So with the help of interoperable with the help of these industry standards, XML, the user is develop the interoperable applications. To develop the interoperable applications, we use the industry standards. So XML is what? Industry standard. WSDL is what? One of the standards. SOAP protocol, RESTful protocols. So they fulfill the standards. And they also fulfill the open source. These are the open source things. So anybody can use in any program. So it follows the industry standard, and extensions will required by the service oriented analysis. So before starting the service oriented designing phase, let us summarize that what we have covered up till now in analysis phase related with timesheet submission process service. We have already covered this particular exercise, this particular case study, and this case study we have solved with the help of two different approaches. Task-centric approach. In task-centric approach, we have divided timesheet submission process into different tasks. An entity-centric approach, we have divided the project into small entities, and these entities are again related with each other. Just like entity relationship diagram is again used for relating the entity. So in that case, I am using the entity-centric approach, but in task-centric case, we are dividing that particular web service into different tasks. So based on the task, the web service is again divided. And in entity-centric approach, the web services are again divided based on the entities, the tables, and the relationship of one entity with another entity. And with the help of these two different approaches, we have identified uh, few web services, and these web services are as follows. The first is get recorded hours for customer and date range. So from to process the timesheet, you retrieve the recorded hours from the database. With the help of again date is also included. Then get the billed hours for the customer and the date range, because you have to calculate the invoice, you have to create the invoice, and to prepare the invoice to sanction the timesheet. So you require the recorded hours and billed hours, and compare these recorded hours with billed hours. So what is the primary task of accepting the timesheet? If the recorded hours are equal to the billed hour, in that case the timesheet is accepted. So for that, the three different web services we required. Then the fourth web service, get the overtime hours. So second requirement of these timesheet submission process is when the recorded hours equal to billed hours, then accept the timesheet. First task, first condition. The second condition is checked while accepting the timesheet submission process is get the overtime hours for the date range. If the particular task is not completed within the time, then the employee takes some extra time to complete that maintenance job, and in that case the employee take the permission of the customer, so authorization of the customer. So whenever the overtime is again done by the employee, so employee takes the authorization from the customer, and when the customer gives the authorization, in that case only the timesheet submission process. The second rule is what? The timesheet is accepted. If you have taken the overtime, and if you have taken the authorization, then the second criteria is completed, so the timesheet is accepted. The third criteria for accepting the timesheet. So third criteria is get weekly hours limit. In employee master table, one attribute is there. So for every employee, the fixed weekly hour limit is assigned to the employee based on his skill set. So semi-skilled, skilled, unskilled. So in case of skilled manpower, they get the more number of hours, weekly hour limit. And if unskilled employee, less number of hours are again assigned to the that particular unskilled employee. So get weekly hours limit and compare the weekly hour limits with hours recorded. So in a particular week, you are performing different tasks, and the hours are again recorded in that particular week, and that hours are again compared with the weekly hour limits. And if the task performed during the weekly hours are less than the weekly hour limits, in that case the third uh, criteria is again fulfilled, and then the timesheet is again accepted by the clerk. So then the invoice is prepared. So all the three rules are again fulfilled. Then the invoice is prepared, and his invoice is printed and given to the customer, and based on that invoice customer gives the payment. And if one of the rule is again not followed by the employee during the timesheet submission process, in that case you reject the timesheet. And if you rejecting the timesheet, then the three tasks are again performed by the employee or the organization or that particular clerk. So update the employee history. If that employee's timesheet is again rejected, his employee history table is again updated, so that employee gets the idea. Also, they are sending the message to the employee that your timesheet is again rejected. Also, similar type of message is again sent to the manager. So the employee, multiple employees are again working under one single manager. So one manager uh, assigned for multiple employees, and these managers are again notified that so this particular employee's timesheet is rejected because of this particular reason. So here the employee is also knowing that his timesheet is rejected because of this particular reason, and that employee's manager also received the message of rejection of the timesheet. And employees history table is also updated. So these are the total 11 web services we have identified with the help of analysis phase. And in composition phase, in the second designing phases, we are designing the service oriented this particular application. After designing these 11 web services, based on the service provider's requirement and based on the service requester's requirement. So this is what the flow of service oriented design looks like. So this is the high level service oriented design processes. So just like analysis, service oriented design is again divided into 5 main steps. And today I am discussing the first phase. So compose SOA. Again, this compose SOA is divided into further 3 steps. In my next video, I am covering the next the 3 different phases of SOA. So today I am just covering the introductory part which is required for composing the SOA. So today I am just discussing about the compose SOA phase. Composing means what? Integrating the different web services. We have identified 11 web services and how these web services are again integrated with each other. So that we are covering with the help of this service oriented design process. So remaining 4 phases I am covering afterwards. So let us discuss the first step, compose SOA phase. So the first step of service oriented design is compose SOA phase. Composing means what? Integrating. Decomposing means what? Dividing the main business process into small business processes. That process we have called as that process is called as the decomposition process. And after decomposition, you develop the individual services, and after individual services are again developed, then you integrate the different web services based on the end user requirement or based on that web service requirement. So composing the SOA. So it's a part of designing phase. Although most service oriented applications will implement a common set of shared technologies. So in compose SOA phase, we are covering some technological terms involved in compose SOA method. And these technological terms are XML. Generally, XML is used. XML is what? Universal language. And with the help of this universal language, the user is able to develop the interoperable application. So success of service oriented architecture is again based on this particular technology, key technology, is called as XML. And first generation web service specification. So first generation web service specification means what? So first generation web services are again developed with the help of SOAP based service. Generally in service oriented designing we are covering how these SOAP based web services are again designed with the help of XML. In RESTful web services, along with the XML, we can use the JSON or text. Even plain text is also used. So different formatting methods are again used in REST protocol. But here we are concentrating on the SOAP-based protocol XML. So in first generation web service specification, so we have already covered the topic called web service specification. So web service specification means what? WS star. So this WS star represents that the web services are again fulfilling the different specification requirement. Web services are again fulfilling the different specification requirement, and there are multiple specifications are again fulfilled by the service oriented designing phase. So these specifications may be web service addressing. Again, which addressing again message exchange pattern is used at the time of designing. So that pattern may be request response or fire and forget or publish and subscribe. Then web service reliable messaging. So while developing the web service, while designing the web service, you write a reliable message. So every web service success is again based on the message is again interpreted by that particular service. If the service is executed successfully, you give the proper message to the end user. If that service fails, you give the proper error message to that end user. So success of web service is again based on that web service gives you a guaranteed messaging. Web service correlation. These web services are again composed, integrated, related with each other. So we are identifying the entities in entity-centric approach, and we are relating this entity with each other to fulfill one particular business task or business service. So web service policy framework. So policies are again identified, and the standards are again used while developing the web service. So XML is one of the standard. WSDL is one of the standards. SOAP is again one of the standard. So metadata exchange. The purpose of web service is what? The metadata exchange. The data is again exchanged with the help of web services. And this web service specification is the web service security. So web service security gives you the idea that web services are also fulfill the encryption. Secured socket layer, SSL type of security is provided by the web services. And the last web service specification is web service notification and eventing. So after successful executions, web services gives you the notification. So in publish and subscribe, so if the user subscribe the services, and after subscribing the services, whenever in case of YouTube video, whenever the user share any new video, the user get the notification. So different web service specifications are again identified while composing the service oriented services, identified or analyzed in case of analysis phase. So it's a designing phase. So designing phase allows the different extensions. Different extensions are again applied on each and every web service. So it's a compose phase. So see here, 3 core specifications associated with the service design. So 3 core specifications associated with the service design. And these 3 service specifications are XML schema document. So generally XML is used for exchanging the information. So the requester gives the request using XML, and service provider execute the request and giving the response back to the back in a XML language itself. So XML service. So a request is given with the help of XML and response is also received with the help of XML. So this request, response, port, location or URL path is again described in the WSDL. So WSDL is developed with the help of XML schema document. And this XML schema document, WSDL document nowadays automatically generated. But in olden days, these WSDL documents are written by the programmer. So programmer designs the WSDL document in the olden days. Nowadays, the service provider means technology provider, they provide you the tools, and with the help of these tools, the WSDL file is automatically generated using XML schema. And in that XML schema, included in the WSDL document, and with the help of WSDL document, we are binding the SOAP request and SOAP response. So SOAP request and SOAP response are again bind with the help of SOAP protocol in WSDL document. So in WSDL document, the SOAP request and response is again bind. So XML key schemas are also giving some inputs to the SOAP. So SOAP header and SOAP body part is again written with the help of the XML schema. So defining the types and payload structure for the SOAP protocol. So SOAP protocol is what? Is the messaging protocol. It passes the message from the service requester to service provider and back to service provider to service requester. So in case of request response, in that case, that payload. So how much character you are passing from one computer to another computer. So that payload calculation is again a part of the SOAP protocol. So SOAP protocol means that SOAP using this SOAP protocol, the request is again divided into two parts. So SOAP in SOAP we use the envelope, and in that envelope is divided into two parts, the header part and the body part. So see here, the first is what? The XML schema definition. So generally XML universal language is used for writing the for defining the XML. So XML schema definition language has become a central and very important common part of XML and web service architecture. So service-oriented architecture, web service framework is totally based on XML. Without XML, we are not able to develop the web services or web API. So XML schema definition has become a central and very common part of XML and web service architecture. So this structure of XML document can formally define by creating the XML schema definition. So whenever the service provider writes the service logic, business logic, so during that the XML schema document is again created. Nowadays this XML schema document is again created with the help of XML tags. Generally mostly XML tag. Just like HTML tag, the XML tags are again used for representing this particular formatting. We use the XML tag. Generally XML and HTML. So XML is again sends the messages. So for communicating the messages, formatting the messages, we use the XML, and HTML is used for GUI designing. Generally GUI designing HTML is used, and message formatting XMLs are again used. This is what the basic difference between XML and HTML. And here the XML are again used for design, means writing the messages, creating the messages, and sending the message from one computer to another computer with the help of XML schema definition. So see here, the document XML schema definition uses some XML symbol, XML uh, tags, and here the XML tags are again used as schema start, schema end, the element start, the element end, complex type tag start, the complex type tag end, sequence start, sequence end, element start, element end. So generally XML schema definition, this particular document is again used, and with the help of this particular document, you are providing some information, some input to the WSDL as well as SOAP protocol. See in previous document. So see here, XML schema document is providing some input to the SOAP as well as WSDL. So define types and payload structure is again provided by XML schema to SOAP, and XML schema also provide define the types for WSDL. So this is what XML schema definition document. This XML schema definition document gives you the input for the WSDL. So we have already seen the development of web services, web API, and I have already shared the WSDL document with you. So you develop the web services and please carefully read each and every line of that WSDL document so that you will get the idea of XML schema definition, WSDL language, so web service definition language, and the SOAP protocol. So the purpose of the SOAP protocol, how this SOAP protocol again used as a messaging protocol in the web services, the vital role played by the SOAP protocol. So WSDL definitions are a central part. So just like XML, the WSDL definition are also a central part of all the aspects of service design. So XML schema define XML schema document, then WSDL, and so this is what the WSDL language basics. You open any WSDL document, you will find different tags. So type tags are again a part of WSDL definition page. Then messages, then port. Port type is also explained in the WSDL definition in the while abstract definition. Again, in case of concrete definition, WSDL covered the SOAP binding. So SOAP binding start and SOAP binding end. Services. So to provide the service, the web service is again deployed on the local server. In case of internal web service, if you are sharing the web service internally, in that local server is used for hosting the web service, and in case of providing the services, web services, web API globally, in that case you're using the cloud resources. And that web server reference location is again explained in the concrete definition part with the help of WSDL document. So WSDL is shared with the service provider so that the web service can be called, consumed by the service requester in his own document. He gives the reference of WSDL in his own document. So WSDL. So what is the use of WSDL? So schema definition. So schema definition. So XML schema definition is a part of WSDL document, as well as messages are again generated with the help of WSDL is also a input provided by the XML schema definition document. So WSDL and XML schema definition, they both use input to the SOAP protocol. So here the SOAP binding is used. So binding tag is used for binding. So binding start, binding end. So here the SOAP protocol is used. And generally messages are again transferred from one computer to another computer. The SOAP protocol generally used. So the SOAP language basics. So in the previous section, we established the WSDL definition intentionally. So this WSDL intentionally separate the abstract form and concrete definition detail. So this SOAP document is divided into two parts, abstract form and concrete definition. So header and the body part. So one of the benefit of doing so is that we can isolate the communication protocol that implement the messaging required by the service from implementation neutral service interface. So messages are again communicated, and the communication protocol communicate the message from one computer to another computer with the help of HTTP protocol, hypertext transmission protocol. So hypertext transmission protocol and SOAP protocol, they go hand in hand. So SOAP protocol has become a messaging format. Generally, message is again passed with the help of SOAP protocol, and we are binding the SOAP protocol in WSDL document. So this is what the SOAP envelope look like. So SOAP envelope covers header tag. So header start, header end. Body tag started, body tag ended. And in case of error generated, the fault message is again, fault tag is used for error. If the error fires, then the fault tag is used for representing the error. Again, in body part, actual message is again communicated, and in header part, the authorizations. So authorization, the header part is used, and body part is used for communicating the message from one computer to another computer. So this is what the SOAP language basics. So see here, the SOAP language basics is again used here. You are sending the messages. So WSDL definition covers the type tag, message tag, port type, start, port type end, then binding start, binding end, binding start, binding end, then service start, service end. So this information is again included in a message in an envelope. So envelope covers the header part. So header part describes the authorization, and body part describes the actual message, or in some cases if the error messages are again error fires, that error is again a part of the SOAP envelope body part. Then the next thing is the body element. So header part, the authorization, and body part is used for passing the information. So here the ISBN. So I want the title of the book with the help of ISBN number. So I am just passing the ISBN number to the web service 0131858580. So I am passing the ISBN number. So this is the ISBN number of which book. So I am sending the request with the help of XML protocol, with the help of schema definition, with the help of SOAP protocol, and the request is again processed by the service provider. Search in the database, and with the help of that database, the data is retrieved in the XML, and they provide the title of that particular ISBN number. They gives you the answer that this ISBN number belongs to service oriented architecture concept technology and design group. So every ISBN number, a title is again assigned. So you are passing the, you are giving the XML request as an ISBN number, and you are retrieving the title. So see actual the content of a sample body structure. So this is what the content of sample body structure. Again here, if that particular service is not executed successfully, in that case a fault construct, we write the fault tag for providing a specific error message. If that ISBN number is not found or that particular server is not providing the services, so that database server is not executing your request, in that case the error message is again, the fault means that error is again provided. So that ISBN number is not found or server is not processing the request at present, you execute your request afterwards. So this type of messages are again executed, and this all these things are again covered in the first phase called as compose SOA. So today I am covering this much only. So we have started the compose SOA phase of service oriented design, and in my next lecture I am covering all the three phases involved in compose SOA phase. So this compose SOA phase is further divided into three different phases, and in my next lecture, video lecture, I am covering the remaining three phases of SOA phase, and afterward I am covering the remaining four phases of service oriented designing life cycle. So today I am covering this much only. So thank you.